So the government just said that you deserve $1,000 for just staying home and keeping us all safe. In this video, we're gonna go over everything that you need to know about the stimulus check. I actually outlined and shot this video on Monday of this week, but so much has happened since that day that I decided to re-outline and reshoot this video so that we had the most up-to-date information. And if you're new here, my name is Anthony. I'll help you be confident with your finances. So subscribe down below if you want to start that journey towards confidence with your money. Okay, so here's everything you need to know about the stimulus check. First, how much will you get? So I know you've probably seen $1,200 thrown around across the media all over the place. And that's correct. That's the amount of the stimulus check per adult. So if you're single or married filing separately, you'll get $1,200. If you're married filing jointly, you'll get $2,400 for the stimulus check. But there are income limitations. If you make $75,000 or less of adjusted gross income, then you'll get the full amount. However, from anything $75,000 to $99,000, you're going to be getting a prorated amount of that $1,200 check. For every $100 above $75,000 that you make, you're gonna lose $5 of your stimulus check. That means that when you get to the $99,000 single person or $198,000 as a married couple of income, you won't have any benefit from this check for yourself. However, there is an additional $500 that you're going to receive per child that you claimed as a dependent on your tax return. There is a stipulation here though. That child has to be 16 or under. Anyone 17 or above who you claim as a dependent on your tax return, unfortunately, for some reason, doesn't get a part of this check, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But where does the government get these income numbers? It's all based on your last federal income tax return that you filed with the IRS, whether that's 2018 or 2019. So if you've already filed your 2019 tax return, even though the deadline was extended through July 15th, your income numbers will be based off of that tax return. So if you made $75,000 or less, you'll get the full amount and a prorated amount up to $99,000. If you didn't file your 2019 tax return yet though, they will look all the way back to your 2018 tax return, but no further. If you haven't filed a tax return for 2018 or 2019, you are still eligible for this, but you do have to file a 2019 tax return. The IRS urges you to do this as soon as you can if you haven't filed a 2018 or 2019 tax return, and when you do that, make sure you put in your direct deposit information, because that's something that's really important that we're gonna get to when we talk about how we get these checks. And if you haven't filed yet, don't worry, these payments are available through the rest of 2020. Luckily, this money is not taxable. It's considered a 2020 tax credit that you get in advance on. So think of it as you're gonna file your 2020 tax return early next year, and you would get this $1,200 then, but because we're on these hard times, the government has allowed you to take an advance on that now, but you don't have to worry about paying it back in the future because they were just gonna give it to you then. It's just like a gift that you receive now instead. But this does bring up an important question in terms of eligibility. Say you didn't qualify in 2019 and you filed your tax return. You made $100,000 that year, congratulations. But you ended up losing your job or coming upon hardships during this season with the record unemployment numbers that we've been seeing. And so this year you've made less than the income threshold. What will happen then? Luckily, like I said, because it is a 2020 tax credit, you will get this money. However, you will have to wait until you file your return early next year. So unfortunately, it won't help you through this time now, but this money will still be yours. You're not gonna miss out on it because it is based on your 2020 return. The opposite of this hasn't really been talked about much from the IRS yet. If you're under the limit in 2019, but in 2020 you end up being over the limit, will you have to repay that return? As of right now, it seems like it's a no. I've read that from a couple of news sources, but it hasn't been verified on the IRS website, at least to my knowledge. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments down below. But it would seem like as of right now, you'll get to keep that money and won't have to repay it, even if your income is higher in 2020 than the income threshold. However, that's just what I see right now and isn't official guidance from the IRS, so take that with a grain of salt. There are two more important situations that have been debated over the past week, which is one of the reasons I had to re-record this video that we'll get to before we get to the goodies. First, people who are on Social Security will receive this check and they will not have to file a simple tax return. It was stated earlier in the week that the Trump administration said that you had to file a simple tax return if you're a part of the Social Security benefits program or the railroad retiree program and you didn't normally have to file an income tax return. This was met with a lot of backlash for obvious reasons because it seems like it's singling out older people who might not even have the ability to file now because they don't understand the technologies. So they've retracted that, and as of right now, you don't need to file a return. They're going to use the information that's in the Social Security Administration database or the railroad retiree database to get you these checks like you normally get your retiree checks or your Social Security benefits. Okay, now it's on to the goodies. How and when are we going to get these checks? So the fastest and easiest way to get this stimulus check is through direct deposit. If you filed your 2018 or 2019 tax return, whichever is latest, and you had your direct deposit on that tax return, they're just going to send you that money as soon as they can. Right now, it's stated by the Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin that it's going to be before April 17th. If you did file those tax returns, but you didn't put your direct deposit information on file, but you want to, luckily there's going to be a solution for you rolled out over the next couple of days or weeks, maybe even before I post this video, and if it is up, you'll see it right here as a link for the IRS as well as in the description below. This is basically a web-based portal where the IRS is going to have you go on their website, input your direct deposit information so that they can get you these stimulus checks faster. Now the IRS has said that around 70 million people are going to be receiving their checks this way. But there are 150 million people in the US who are qualifying for this benefit. So the other 80 million are going to have to use the other way, which might take up to 5 months. What? These people will receive their stimulus check through snail mail, through the postal service. It'll get sent out starting the first week of May, and then it'll go for probably 4 more months. That's because the IRS only has the capability to send out 5 million checks per week. That means that it'll probably take about 4 months to get all 80 million checks sent out to all these people. So if you have the ability to put your direct deposit information in, please do. But how will they prioritize who gets these checks first in the mail? Because they can only send out 5 million at a time. And the IRS has said that that's based on income. So the lower your income, the earlier you're going to get the checks. That's why you need to get your direct deposit information in with the IRS when they set up that portal if you haven't done so already. Another quick note to mention is if you do expect to get this in the mail instead of in a direct deposit, make sure that if your last tax return had a different address, you set up forwarding from that address. The IRS is required via the Treasury to send you a notice that you have been paid this check. And if you didn't get it in the mail or didn't get it direct deposited and you get this letter, you can call a number that'll be on that letter to reach out to the IRS, because we all know how fun it is to reach out to government agencies and make sure that you do end up getting the stimulus check. But that leads me to something that is super important and you need to be really careful of. This pandemic has taken an emotional and physical toll on pretty much most of Americans, if not all, I would say at this point. And because of that, there are lots of awful, terrible, stupid people in the world who want to take advantage of that vulnerability. So, a few things that you need to know. The IRS will not reach out to you for this information. You have the duty to give them your direct deposit information. They won't reach out to you to get that. So if you have somebody who's reaching out to you saying that they're from a government agency, from the IRS, trying to help get you your stimulus check, they are not doing that out of goodwill. It is a scam. Also, there is no application for the stimulus check. Your only application is having a tax return or having Social Security or having a railroad retiree benefit program. The government has set this up in a way that they're going to get you that check without you having to initiate anything on your part, as long as they have some sort of contact information for your bank or for your address. If someone is reaching out for you saying that, hey, I have the application, would you like to get that settled? It's a scam. Don't go for it. Another one that I mentioned earlier is by law, the Treasury has to send you that note when they send you payment. So if you get that note and you didn't get payment, make sure to reach out to the IRS like I said before. Please be vigilant. And I know that my target demographic is early college to late 20s. And so that means that you probably all know this information, but I bet you might have a loved one who doesn't. Please make sure that they're being vigilant and staying aware of these scammers who want to take advantage of them in this vulnerable time when they're even the most vulnerable. Please reach out to anybody who you know might not necessarily understand this information or is prone to being scammed, and let them know that no one is going to reach out to them for this benefit. They don't have to give out their information. Now let's talk about a couple of exemptions from this stimulus program. People who won't be getting this check. Now something that's interesting is that if your tax returns are being garnished to pay towards student loans that you defaulted on, or you owe back taxes, you will still get this stimulus check. It's not going to be barred from you. You're not exempt from getting this. But the 3 categories of people who are number 1, people who owe back child support. So if you're not current on child support payments, you won't be receiving a stimulus check or a prorated stimulus check. Number 2, people who don't have Social Security numbers. And number 3, people age 17 and up who are claimed as a dependent on somebody else's tax return. Unfortunately, that means that a lot of college students aren't going to be receiving this, even though they're some of the people who are affected the most. So if you know someone who's affected by this who's not going to be receiving any benefit, or their parents even aren't going to be receiving that $500 benefit because they're 17 or older, please reach out in any way that you can help. This is a time that we really need to come together in this situation. Even though the government has tried to do this and it's been good for a lot of people, it's not great for everybody. I'm planning on releasing a video soon talking about how I recommend using this stimulus money so you don't regret it later. So drop a like down below if that's something that you're interested in seeing. There is one more important thing to know about the income requirement for this stimulus check. It's based on your adjusted gross income. And that's a fancy tax word that if you want to learn a lot more about it, watch this video here. I'm going to go over everything having to do with your federal income taxes so that you know what your tax liability would be and you can be confident about your taxes. Subscribe down below, and I appreciate you making the investment in your financial future with me today.